Hello, we are live with Rebooting Your Life, and this one in the series is all about going from an employed job, working 60 hours a week, right through to setting up two businesses around her family. And today's guest is Lorna Farrell. Lorna, please, would you just tell us a little bit about what you do?
Hi, so what I do now is I have two businesses. One is as a copywriter, and I help people with their social media, emails, web pages, all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And the other one, I am now a business coach, and I work with mums who want to set up businesses around their families, around the rest of their lives, and make the two parts work together.
Fabulous. So, please, could you tell me your story?
Okay, so a few years ago, I was working with, in the early years, I spent a lot of years working as a nanny. I also specialized in newborn care, and I was a sleep consultant. I'd done all sorts of different things around small children. And mostly that means working a lot of hours.
Yeah,
A standard job could easily be a 60-hour week, plus,
yeah,
commuting time, all that sort of thing.
yeah,
Um, and in some ways, it's a great job to have when maybe you first become a mum. Often you're able to take your own child along with you,
yeah.
and that's great. But it's not necessarily something that you want to do long term.
Hmm.
Um, it's a lot of you're sort of getting your own baby out of bed really early in the morning,
Yeah,
getting back late at night,
yeah.
all that sort of thing.
So, were
Um,
you doing this at kind of other people's houses? Was it kind of
yeah,
in
yeah,
their setting?
exactly. And I worked for a really lovely family. Don't get me wrong, it was a lovely job to have, but the job came to an end anyway.
Hmm.
I was expecting my second baby, and I found myself in a position where I just, I'd been doing that for a lot of years. I was ready for a
Hmm.
change anyhow.
Yeah,
I wasn't really going to be able to get another job that I could take a toddler and a baby to,
yeah,
particularly in the part of the country where I live, that, not that many of that sort of job around.
yeah,
And I needed to make money,
yeah,
like a lot of us do. The world these
yeah.
days doesn't sort of, one income families don't really sort of work out anymore, do they? Not the way they used to.
No.
And I was just sort of stood there going, okay, so I can't afford two nursery places for a 2-year-old and a baby.
Yeah,
Even if I could find a job, I'm not really necessarily qualified for jobs that are available near me,
yeah,
other than, sort of minimum wage type stuff, which
yeah,
wouldn't cover nursery fees.
yeah,
I don't really want to work, you know, all the hours that there
yeah,
are if
yeah,
I can avoid it. So
yeah,
what am I going to do?
yeah,
That was the thing. Um, and I'd spent a lot of time previously. I'd looked at setting up businesses. I'd sort of had a go at a couple of things, usually around kind of giving parenting advice, that sort of
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
So I was already connected with some, mums in business,
yeah,
networking
yeah,
groups, that sort
yeah,
of stuff.
yeah,
And through those, I met a couple of ladies who were copywriters.
yeah.
And one in particular said, you're like really good at this. You could do this. So I thought I'd give it a go.
Fab.
Basically, I suddenly realized that I had, all these books on my bookcase about how to be a writer. And I'd written things like magazine articles for parenting magazines,
Yeah,
that kind of thing I'd been doing all along. But I'd always had this idea that the only way to make money as a writer was either being employed, like as a journalist,
yeah, yeah,
or writing a book.
yeah, yeah,
And that's the sort of thing that you've got to dedicate, a year to write it and then
yeah,
get it published, and then
yeah,
you might see money eventually.
yeah,
I had no real concept of the idea that you could set up as a writer, self employed,
yeah,
and make money.
Yeah.
until I met these people who were doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I gave it a go basically and made it work.
Fabulous. So was there can you think, if you think back, can you pinpoint a particular turning point or anything that kind of really kind of pushed you to make that transition?
It was probably, as I say, meeting these ladies who were already doing it and realizing that it actually was like a real thing that people did.
Yeah.
And then one of them in particular, she gave me my first job. She was my first client. And really, you know, was brilliant, really encouraging. And then, yeah, did the fact that it was something I could do at home with my children at home for the first well over a year, pretty nearly a year and a half, I had no childcare at all.
Right.
My husband works long hours, 5-6 days a week. So sometimes he would look after the children on a Sunday and I'd go off to a coffee shop and work. But that was the extent of childcare that I had available.
Yeah.
So I was working, you know, during nap times or
when they got
I could take them to play for a bit in the evenings. Say Sundays.
Yeah.
And just having that encouragement, knowing that there were other people out there doing this job and that they made it work. That made all the difference, really.
Fabulous. So you've talked kind of about how you kind of fitted it in. Was there anything else that you did to reboot your life in terms of trying to get that balance?
Well, the thing that made a real big difference to me was when I joined like a group mentoring program. Because it's quite funny because it's a copywriting group. So like I'm a copywriter. And they're sitting there going, why do I want to join a copywriting group? I'm a copywriter. Like I know this stuff. But it was the group support, the accountability, being able to access all those other people doing the same sort of thing. You know, that makes such a huge difference rather than sitting, you know, essentially on your own at home. With small children and a keyboard. You know, having that access to other people. That makes such a big difference.
And it's a very supportive community, isn't it?
Absolutely.
There's no, it's women out for women.
Definitely. Out to change the world.
And a few men.
They keep quiet. But no, I think that, as I say, just that the community and the accountability and all that sort of thing, that makes such a big difference. And that's why I really wanted to set up like my second business. Because when I just started getting people messaging me saying, so how do you do this? Basically. And often when I was looking at the help and support that's available, the groups that are out there, all that sort of thing. Podcasts, you know, everything like that. Often they're either aimed at people who are, you know, the phrase that's used is getting out of corporate, isn't it? And they tend to be people who've maybe been on a higher income before. And that can just put them in a slightly different position. I'm not saying it's easy, don't get me wrong, but just a slightly different position. Maybe they have slightly more resources to get started. Or, you know, and also, you know, maybe they're aiming for a higher income off the bat. So, you know, sort of in both ways, it's slightly different. And then the other thing was that groups tended to be either parenting support groups or business support groups. And there wasn't really anywhere where people could go and get advice about matching the two together. So I just wanted to provide a place where somebody could come and say, oh, I'm really struggling with, you know, like I've got a client meeting this morning and I've had no sleep last night because the baby was up all night and now I can't think straight. And how am I going to deal with my client? Because actually those two things do go together. You know, because we're one person, aren't we?
And we all know sleep, it's a massive, massive factor in how we feel, our energy, our mental health, everything.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, maybe that mum wants help with sleep training, or maybe she just wants, a virtual hug and a cup of coffee, or maybe
Yeah.
she wants support on figuring out the best, way to convert this client, or,
Yeah.
but somewhere where you can go and talk about all those things.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really where my sort of second business came from.
Oh, lovely. So how long has your second one been going?
Not long. I just started up in the last couple of months, really. It's been I've been planning it for a while.
Yeah.
And then, lockdown hit and
Yeah.
everything got put on the back burner, and I sort of pulled it out again. Yeah.
Yeah. Fabulous. That's great. So is there any other tips that you would like to share with mums that are perhaps trying to kind of return to work, or trying to make that sort of transition into kind of a small business, or anything that you think can help?
Oh, I think if you're thinking about setting up a business, the important thing to do is to work out what your own goals actually are.
Yeah.
Everybody has different goals, and that's
Yeah.
totally fine. For
Yeah.
some people, they want to use no childcare at all. Maybe they're planning on homeschooling if they've got older
Yeah.
children. They
Yeah.
really want their children at home with them all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for some people, they're thinking, well, actually, I'm quite happy to use like a full-time nursery place.
Yeah.
I just want to know that I can be there to do the drop-offs and pickups.
Yeah. Yeah.
And both of those options, or somewhere in between, are totally fine. Any income goal that you have is
Yeah.
totally fine. You might
Yeah.
be thinking, I can take a year to build up to the amount of income that I want.
Yeah.
Cool. You might be
Yeah.
thinking, no, I've got a bill due in 2 weeks and I'd really like to be able to pay it.
Yeah.
You know, whatever it is, work that out first,
Yeah.
because it will have a big impact on the type of business that's going to work for you.
Yeah.
If you're going to be talking to clients,
Yeah.
maybe over, over Zoom or whatever, or having actual, in-person client meetings, then you probably want to have childcare during those times.
Yes. Yeah.
If somebody's going to pay you for an hour of your time, then you need to be able to focus during that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you're going to be, say, doing something like writing, where you're not actually talking to them and they're paying for the work rather than a certain amount of time, then maybe you can have children at home while you're doing it, because you can fit it in during nap times and evenings, and be a bit more flexible about it.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. If you know what your goals are, you can actually choose a business that will help you achieve them.
Yes.
There's a lot of people go into business, especially mums. There's certain businesses, aren't there, that are sort of considered like mums businesses, making stuff often.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with those at all. Just make sure that it is something that can actually achieve what you want it to achieve.
Yeah. And
otherwise, you can work and work and put everything you've got into it and never achieve what you want and feel like you've failed. And you haven't failed at all. It's just that business model wasn't right for what you wanted it to do.
Yeah. And you see that, because I'm in quite a number of different kind of mums in business groups, or and business groups, and women in business groups, not necessarily mums, and it's it's really interesting, because sometimes something that starts out as a hobby can sometimes become something that works amazingly for some mums, but then also you've got to know that actually there's a demand for that, and it's just there's so many different elements, because you see a lot of people making things but not necessarily selling them as well,
or selling them for very little money, sort of spending an hour making something and selling it for like £5. And there's nothing wrong with doing that if that you know, if that suits what you want to do, but if you're aiming to make a certain income level, then maybe that's never going to actually reach it.
Yeah. But you know, there are, you know, people that have, you know, done phenomenal things with, you know, different sorts of like jewelry or key rings and different products, and you know, all sorts of different things. But also, you know, great jobs for mums, like you know, virtual assistants that you can fit around your children, and
all that sort of anything sort of computer based, like graphic designers and web designers, and like say virtual assistants, writing, people doing sort of accounting as well, you know, anything like that. You can make work. But I mean, if you love making stuff, then you know, I'm not saying that's a bad thing to do, but it's how you position it. Because you can position yourself as a sort of artist and designer, and you know, go off the sort of the more high end side of the market. Where you can charge more money, basically. Rather than the sort of making little trinkets for pocket money side of it. You know, it just depends on what your goals are, really, and what you're wanting to achieve.
And that comes back to what you said in the beginning. It's important to know kind of what you want, and it's like what you know, and also kind of what your vision is, isn't it? So it's like goals. You need your goals of what you need to achieve. So what you, and that is also what I say to people as well. You need to know what your minimum is. So you know, what do you need to, you know, if you're starting a business, what do you need to do to survive?
Oh, absolutely.
You know, because, and then what would be your good and what would be your amazing, because actually those are milestones along the way. And what do you want that to look like? How many hours do you want to work? You know, do you want to be able to go and take your kids to football, or, you know, or you're not bothered about that? You know, it's kind of, it's like, what are those different things that, you know, do you want to work 4 days a week, not 5? Do you want to, so do you want to work in the evenings around your kids? It's all sorts of different ways.
I think it's designing the business that will work for the life that you want to have, rather than just going, oh, I'm good at that, I could turn that into a business, and then having to make your life fit
around
a business model that, you know, might not actually be the right one for you.
Very good point. Is there anything you'd like to add, Lorna?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay, so if anyone would like to learn more about what you do, how's the best way for them getting in touch with you?
Okay, if they are interested in life as a mum in business and all that kind of thing, they can find me on Instagram at Growing Business and Babies. So they'll find me there. And if they want to find out more about my sort of copywriting side, that sort of thing, my website is wordsbylorna.com.
Fabulous. And if you want to learn more about rebooting your life or about your mental fitness, I've got a free challenge starting on Monday, which will just which gives you training and support for 5 days in. And all you have to do is about 15-20 minutes of work a day. So if you want to join that, the link is above this video. So thank you very much, Lorna. And I will be back with my final interview of the week shortly.